Cynics on Disney podcast contains adult language. Listener discretion is advised. This is the Cynics on Disney podcast, presented by nightclub33.com.
Welcome into this week's episode of the Cynics on Disney podcast. I'm your host, Bobby, a.k.a. the Disney Cynic.
And I'm Amanda, a.k.a. the Anti-Cynic.
And joining us, as well, I predicted and promised that he would like a month ago, back for another round of financial discussion. And this time, guys, we're putting you through the paces. This whole fucking episode's about the entirety of the Disney shareholder meeting, because I've got thoughts. And I can't be contained to like 15 minutes. So we're skipping a review tonight and bringing in, of course, notclub33.com's CFO. That would be Pat Neistat, everybody. So welcome back,
What's
Pat.
going on, guys? Oh, the kids, they're back.
Yeah,
the kids are back.
Have the kids ever left?
No.
Tried to like.
No.
Are they at your house or what? What's this?
They're kind of like an alligator, okay? Like you can't just like grab them and then move them like a little bit. No. You gotta ship that thing like 500 miles away. Otherwise, it will come straight back to where you moved it.
Whatever you're doing, they're very kind and they always cheer for me. So
They do.
They don't really love me.
They are very nice kids.
They're a little toothy. So But anyway, all right. So let's talk about the Disney shareholders meeting that just occurred as of yesterday, anyway, on April 3rd. I'd like to open this discussion by saying I'm going to finally lay my political cards on the table, you guys. I don't necessarily vote for major parties. Okay. Sometimes I vote for someone like Vermin Supreme. Do you guys know who Vermin Supreme is?
I've heard.
Yes.
For those of you in the audience who have no idea what I'm talking about, Google Vermin Supreme. Future Steve, please place a picture of Vermin Supreme on the screen right now. Thank you, Future Steve. So Vermin Supreme, for those of you who aren't aware, is a candidate who runs in whoever is not in Power's party as a registered member in, I believe it's New Hampshire every time. And he is constantly wanting to give away free ponies. As just he dresses like a wizard and he wears a giant boot on his head. I mean, that's all you need to know about the guy.
Yeah.
Right. But sometimes voting for someone like that sends a different message, right? It sends a message that I don't like either one of these candidates. And that's kind of what I feel like I would be doing by voting for Nelson Peltz and Jay Rasulo. And I feel like enough triad. I don't know. Whatever the hell their investment firm is called. Enough people did vote for Nelson Peltz to make an impact. He didn't come close to winning. Right.
Not
it was
even remotely close.
Well, What was the final tally, Pat?
I think I don't know the numbers, but I think for every one vote Peltz got, the Disney choice got 5. And for Rasulo, for every one vote he got, the Disney vote got 7 or 8. So, I mean, that's...
Which to me is a crying shame. I think that, those should have been reversed. I think that Jay Rasulo was an excellent candidate who knows exactly what the hell he's talking about as the former CFO of the Disney company. I think Peltz knows what he's talking about when it comes to rebuilding businesses. And I think that this whole proxy campaign that has been waged, it was never destined to be an absolute W where Peltz and Rasulo got on the board.
Right.
I think that this was a proxy campaign that was waged and fought specifically to draw out some of the dirty stuff that Disney's been kind of covering up, whether that's some internal policies, whether that's their I would say something along the lines of the their streaming profitability. I think we all know how streaming businesses now work from a model perspective, way more as a result of this whole proxy fight than we ever did before. I think we kind of knew with Netflix how that business was operating, but that's because they, on paper anyway, they always operated at a loss because they were constantly, putting
Mhm.
everything back into content and technology. And
Yeah.
that it's actually what Amazon does, by the way.
Yeah.
To like on paper, they make like no money, but they reinvest it all within their own companies for R&D purposes, or they buy a different company. Like that's why we have Amazon trucks on the road instead of post
Yeah.
office trucks. So I there are I guess like that's something that I think is a positive outcome of this whole campaign. Another is that I also tend to think that the quality issues that we've been seeing over at the parks that I've just done nothing but bitch and moan about have really been brought to light as a result of this campaign. Would you guys agree with that sentiment?
Yeah.
Amanda.
In some aspects, yes.
Yeah,
Here,
I would say that. Yeah, I think I, for one, I didn't want Peltz on the board at all. I think he has a history of um, getting on boards and it not working out very well. Um, I think there's one outlier. I think he was on Procter and Gamble, and uh, I think he'd be more of a distraction than anything on the Disney board. But I do think some of the stuff that he was talking about, um, like what you were saying, was it probably ended up being a positive thing for the Walt Disney Company because it made Iger and the current board address certain things, and
yes.
so I think that was one good thing that came out of it for sure. I agree.
I would also say with specifically with Peltz in what you were talking about with his quote unquote reputation as
Hmm.
as an activist investor, uh,
Hmm.
he is looked down upon by a lot of people because he broke up a lot of big companies, and that
Sure.
certainly the Wall Street types that are out there are much more likely to be upset with something like that because they love these giant conglomerative companies that they can kind of throw all their eggs in one basket. Whereas, the smaller companies are a little bit less secure financially because they're not very diverse typically. Um, I kind of feel like it would have been a good idea if they did potentially break up the Disney
Mm.
company. Now, this
So
is my hot take. I'm the only
yeah.
one that I know who says this. I think that the parks and experiences that whole division should have been spun off into its own company.
Mm.
I do.
I can't. I don't agree with that. I think the and Peltz talked about this as well. The flywheel,
Sure.
right? Um, I just think that Disney in the with the content and the parks, it meshes so well together that I think that at the because who would run the parks? I mean,
I know that this is
what
something
what would
that is
happen to them
blowing
if
your
they're not
mind.
really under the guidance of the Walt Disney Company? You know,
I
Well, I
have
mean
four
that
examples for you.
happens. That happens in the Asian
it
All
does.
four
markets.
Asian parks, by the way. The Oriental Land Company is, it's Oriental Sea Company that owns Tokyo Disney. They license everything
Sure.
from Disney. They use Disney's Imagineers. They use Disney's resources, but they're not actively paying
Yeah,
for
but
them.
those resources once the Walt Disney Company diverges from their parks,
That
Imagineering goes with the parks, right? And it's just not the same company that it was.
I would say
It's
to
not. It's not like in Shanghai where they're using the Imagineers are still building and coming up with all the ideas. You know.
so let
Um,
me throw some examples at you where you're I know where you're coming from on that, but here's where you're wrong. ILM.
Yeah, go for it.
Industrial Light and Magic. They
Yeah.
they absolutely were a spin-off of George Lucas's production company. They spun off into their own company specifically, and now they are probably, if not definitely, larger than George Lucas ever could have made them.
Well, yeah. Well,
So
Disney owns
and it-
that.
no, they don't own ILM. They own Star
They
Wars, but
don't.
they don't own.
I thought they
don't
owned.
own
I
ILM.
thought they owned that company as well when they bought it.
No, Industrial Light and
Are you
Magic
sure?
is its own separate company,
Okay.
and
I was under the impression that was bought with Lucasfilm.
you know what? This is where we can go back.
I've
to one of our
already-
favorite segments.
I've already
Amanda
Googled
Googled
it.
shit.
I've already Googled it.
Alright.
So, according to, because ILM was a division of Lucasfilm, when Disney bought Lucasfilm, they bought
They now
ILM.
own it. Okay.
Yep, they own it.
All right, perhaps I'm wrong. How about then spinning
Perhaps.
off?
I'm sorry, perhaps.
Yes.
This is where I tell you
now-
you're wrong.
Now, this is a little bit of a more complicated one,
Mhm.
obviously, but it's kind of the reason why I think some of this is backfiring to a degree. Pixar was a spinoff of both of those, if I'm not mistaken. Off of
Yeah, so
ILM.
Pixar was Steve Jobs,
Mhm.
and I think
And-
they were somehow they were related. I don't know exactly how, but you're right. But Disney
But
owns
Got
it
it.
too now.
Okay,
I got it.
Disney
I got
now
it.
owns Pixar. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Pixar started in 1979 as part of the Lucasfilm Computer Division.
hmm
But again, it
And
was
then I guess
spun off
Steve
into
Jobs-
its own company.
It was known as the Graphics Group before it split off as a corporation in 1986
Mhm.
with funding from Steve Jobs, who was a majority shareholder.
Sure.
So
Don't know. I don't think spinning off companies and this kind of thing is a bad idea, but I think it's a bad idea for the Walt Disney Company.
and again, this is where I disagree. Okay, because
Mhm.
making films and making resorts are two very, very different focuses when it comes to profitability, margins, just general business. They're different markets entirely, and you judge
Sure.
them very, very different. Also,
Yeah.
while I don't necessarily think that it would have been good for the company to spin off the parks into its own separate entity entirely, I think that would have been best for the company long term, because then they don't have the financial backing of the parks to supplement the losses that are on the studios. And that makes them reevaluate what kinds of content that they are putting out. What I mean by that is we've had since the pandemic, basically, when they released Soul on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
What's the memorable movie that's come out?
Encanto.
Well, if you look at
was
if you
Encanto-
That's
listen-
huge. Yeah.
But was it
huge.
was it
really
during the
huge.
pandemic? I thought it was like
Yeah.
2018 and 2019.
No, it's
No,
a
it
huge,
was after.
It's a huge
It was
film.
after.
It's
So we
still
got
to this
one-
day watched and beloved. It's so watched and beloved that they're putting it in Animal Kingdom. You know,
Okay,
it's
yeah, I fucking hate that.
Yeah,
too.
Encanto was
and
released.
by the way, that is confirmed that Encanto is going to Animal Kingdom. That was
Which
confirmed
is
today.
It's one of the worst decisions ever, and it makes me even angrier now that these guys lost. But anyway,
But if you listen to what Iger said, some of the things that he said at the shareholders meeting, he pointed out the fact that Disney's film and TV studios are both coming off of a, quote, stellar award season. Disney led the industry with 20 Oscar nominations, including 5 wins. They got 27 Golden Globe nominations. They won top prizes for Poor Things and The Bear. And then at the Primetime Emmy Awards, they took
what?
home
What was
Poor
the name of
Things and The
Bear?
Bear.
The
Bear's
fuck
a
is
good
that?
show.
It was on
You've
FX.
never seen that show? Have you ever seen Shameless? It's Lip from Shameless, and he's like a chef. It's actually a really good show. You should watch it.
Okay.
And they took home 37 Primetime Emmy Awards, which was more than any other entertainment company.
Yeah, but I would say their film division has been in a rut, and we've seen this. We've seen this before. We've seen this show before, and then you had the '90s come through, and they made some awesome films, and maybe that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a resurgence in this.
Look,
because really, when Bob Chapek took over, he really cut creative out. Like,
oh yeah,
yes and no, but there's a. Yes, you're right. That Chapek reorganized the company, and he did so poorly. But I'm trying not to focus on so much the Chapek era with this, and the only reason why is because that's dead and done. But a lot of those decisions that we blame Chapek for were really Iger decisions, and Iger's the one that's back in charge. So
I agree. Yeah.
We totally, this show, every other show really that was out there really put the onus and the blame squarely on the shoulders of Bob Chapek.
No, we were on this show. We talked about Iger and the Fox deal and some of the mistakes we thought that he had done.
I'm pretty sure that I also did like a bunch of fireworks and Star Spangled Banner and like all that kind of shit when the news was announced that Chapek had been fired.
Well, Chapek is a lot still worse than Iger. I mean, come on.
I don't know.
I do.
I don't know. And the reason why I don't know is because we never really got to see the full effect of all of the policies that
yeah, but you're talking about
I was not happy with the Genie Plus bullshit, right? I'm not happy with the parks maintenance and status. So,
but all that aside, what really Chapek did was he really cut down Imagineering. He tried to make all those people move, and if you don't move, you don't move to Florida. You know, he had those guys down and out. And the one thing I'll say about Iger is these Imagineers, they love Iger. I mean, they came out in support of him in this proxy battle. I mean, Bob Weiss made a statement. He was the head of Imagineering for a while, right?
He was put in by Iger, so I mean,
right. But he's been around. He's been around forever.
Let's just mention the fact that Joe Rohde left Imagineering after
and came back.
Became.
Yep. All those guys got pushed out. So I mean, it's really, and then Iger comes back. He brings back Bruce Vaughan, who's been around forever and around Rohde, around Weiss, around Baxter. And this is the type of guy that you want in charge. So that's why I have some defense for Iger. I don't say that he's perfect, but at least these people in the company, they want him around.
Yeah, I guess I just don't care about the employee happiness factor. I don't. I care about whether or not they make good stuff. You know, and that's the scale that I'm using to judge it.
But by bringing back these top names, there's definitely more hope that they are going to create better.
And then you find out today. Yes, they're gonna. We may not love the IP going into Animal Kingdom, but that's happening. And whatever they do, it's gonna look great, and it's probably gonna have some great rides. But also about the permits filed over at Magic Kingdom, beyond the Big Thunder Mountain, which y'all thought that would never come about, but that looks like that's going to be happening too. You know, so there's a lot of good stuff to look forward to. And this comes from them settling the floor. What's that?
Who forced all that issue though?
Now you could make the argument that Peltz forced it, but I'll make the argument that Universal forced it with Epic Universe.
I think a lot of this with the parks side of things is coming from what Universal's doing. Universal's expanding. They haven't had a new theme park at Disney World here in Orlando since 1998. That's when Animal Kingdom opened.
Yeah.
Now you've got Universal up the street with nowhere near the amount of land that Disney has. All of a sudden, they're building a third theme park
Right.
And
that theme
it's
park
going to be amazing from
and
everything
that third
I've seen
theme park
and heard.
is the size of their 2 theme parks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No,
So I
it's
think
gonna,
that's what's really going to be pushing Disney in the next
Hey.
10 years.
I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you guys just said. Also, you know who's paying for it?
Who?
The Disney company,
Yeah.
because that's what they had to do to get Universal, the parent company, or Comcast, really, the parent
Mhm.
company of Universal Studios, out of the Hulu business. They paid for like $4 billion. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you know, guess what the cost of that theme park was?
Sure. Yeah. No.
3.7. So guess who paid for it? Disney did. Okay.
Yeah.
Whose fault is that?
Well, I mean,
It's Bobby Iger's. That's whose fault.
but they, I don't know. I mean, they could be eventually Hulu may be profitable. I have no idea. But
Well,
So far, the only thing that's come from it, as far as I'm concerned, is the targeted ad that I received that said Ohana means Family Guy.
it's on Disney Plus. Did you see? You saw
No,
that?
I'm watching it now.
Yeah, we're watching it. Like it's what we're binge watching again. Is
Yeah.
Can you
Family
believe
Guy.
that?
It's,
Disney Plus, from when they originally started to where it is now, like they should have just made Disney Plus this, like with all their content on the one app. But
They
I mean, they
still
finally got it
have-
right.
I'm sorry, there's still content that's not on there that I want to see on there, but you know.
But
That's
you know,
just
it's all migrating over at least. You know.
okay.
I
Sure.
believe that Iger made the comment that that streaming. Oh yeah, he did report that the streaming segment is on track to reach profitability by the end of this fiscal year.
Yeah.
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
I will believe that when I actually see it on an earnings report. And I
Well,
actually
they've closed. They've definitely closed the deficit gap over the last year.
The problem is,
Because
how they
don't remember
do-
the show we did. It was maybe a year ago, maybe further. That it was $1 billion in
Yeah.
losses.
Yes.
Remember that?
I do.
And now I think they've shrinked it pretty. You know, they've got it down. So we'll see.
So there's that, but there's
Mhm.
also Hollywood accounting and how they write off certain losses on certain balance sheets and say, "Oh, this is really a Lucas film loss, not a Disney Plus loss." When it comes to something like Ahsoka or Kenobi or what I'm presuming what will happen with the Acolyte, I think 12 people are going to watch the Acolyte
I'll watch
because
it.
nobody fucking cares. Nobody cares. I mean, like, ugh. And it's done by the Harvey Weinstein's former assistant. That just makes me cringe right
Yeah.
there.
Probably gonna
So-
suck, but I'll watch it.
No, it's going to be awful. Like, there's no doubt about it in my mind. I'll probably watch it too. Who am I kidding? I'm watching Star Trek Discovery, and that's all. But again,
I
think
left the
result-
room. I refuse to watch that.
So I guess my point with bringing up all this pelt stuff here,
Mhm.
all of this is the result of his infight with Disney.
You could say that maybe.
I am saying that. So, you know, our knowledge of this situation, our knowledge of all the shit with Imagineering, all of the shit with what I'm going to just call quality issues, because we've all said that there have been issues at the parks for a long time, but they've
Sure.
never been more in the spotlight than they are right now.
Right.
And ironically, that spotlight is broken because somebody didn't test the water spigot because they had too much water pressure and it blew out some lights and it cost them $7 billion to do it. So
Now the investments in Walt Disney World, they said that I forgot how much the number was, but a lot of that Iger said on that call yesterday is there's a percentage of it that's going to go to fixing and updating the parks, which that was good to hear.
Yeah, when
But
Space
it
Ship Earth
depends.
stopped
What parks
freaking,
are they going to come to Disney World and fix things, or is this going
No,
to
there's
go?
it was specifically Walt Disney World that they were
Okay.
talking about.
which again,
Yeah.
I don't believe a fucking word that this guy says. Okay, I just don't. And let me explain a little bit of the reason why. Okay, because Iger may have won this proxy round, but the way that he communicates is the way that Hollywood does accounting. It's technically true, but also very, very much bullshit. Okay, so some of the stats that he threw out there, right? He threw out, oh, the stock price is up roughly 50% in the last 6 months.
Wow.
Okay, fine. On March 1st, 2022, it reached its peak at $189.99 as a stock price high. Ever since then, it has dropped down $71.48 all the way down to 118.51 as of closing yesterday. And that would be a loss of 38% overall. Now, yes, it was much larger than that, and they've gained some of it back, but you are nowhere near what your stock price should be
Sure.
in this economy.
So
Because between inflation and what you purport to be as successes and bright futures and morning at Disney World and all that bullshit that he tried to sound like Ronald Reagan a little bit with it, at the end of the day here, that stock price should be around $250. And it's nowhere near that. It's half that.
Yeah, I don't know where the stock price should be, but I will say that in the last, we'll just call it the last couple of years, I mean, there's a lot of external forces that that was going against, like the Walt Disney Company. That COVID was, I think, a huge issue for that company.
But it was a huge issue for Universal too. It was a huge issue for.
I get it, but it's not like Comcast stock hasn't moved in like 5 years.
No, but it's not. It's not in the spotlight like Disney is, and this is the difference between.
Because I don't think Comcast is held in such a high standard as the Walt Disney Company.
So there you go.
And that makes this worse because he even brought it up. Iger even brought it up in the call with talking about essentially like the high standard that Disney is held to. Yeah. And okay, so at least he's aware of it, but like we got to do something to get back to that.
I agree.
Disney's not back to that.
I agree, but you have these companies, there's ebb and flows. I mean, and hopefully we're on the precipice of something great happening.
I mean, right. The 1970s in Disney company history, not a great time period for them.
Well, even like the time heading into Eisner's reign wasn't great.
Yeah,
and he came 70s, in and they had this great reign, and then even towards the end of Eisner's reign, there was a decline, and then when Iger came in, it reaccelerated, and then now there's somewhat of a decline, right? And now Iger's back.
Guess what that means? You need new leadership when you see those kinds of
so
things.
They bring in Hugh Johnson, right? The new CFO. I think he might be an important figure in the Walt Disney Company.
Well, anyone with a name like
moving forward, especially when they bring in if they ever get a new CEO, I think they're going to coexist, kind of like Eisner and
Lawrence Kasdan, or no, Irving Kershner,
the guy that he was like his right hand man.
Oh,
that died in the helicopter accident. Wells, maybe.
Yeah, Frank.
Hold on,
Frank Wells, maybe.
You said
so. This guy, he was kind of like the Roy to Walt for Eisner, and maybe this Johnson, I think, could be the Roy to whoever comes in.
Yeah, Frank Wells.
Frank Wells, yeah.
Who's the creative person in that tandem, then, Pat?
Who? I'm not talking about Iger. I'm just saying the new person coming.
This is the setup that has made the Disney company successful. A creative visionary at the top and a financial guy number two.
And I think Hugh Johnson may be that financial guy.
But
Iger's not that creative guy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Bob Iger.
But think about it. You got to give him some credit. I mean, over the years, he gave us some good stuff.
He bought us
Galaxy's Edge.
He bought stuff. That's the thing. He bought us good stuff. We wouldn't have had Galaxy's Edge without the deal with Lucasfilm. We wouldn't have had the
Marvel
Pandora
Cinematic Universe if we
without
Marvel.
The deal with James Cameron.
That's all about owning and running a company, though. He saw the opportunity that these Pixar characters were were more beloved than the Disney characters. And he's
And
like, wait
whose
a minute.
responsibility was that? John
These-
Lasseter, and John Lasseter is no longer with the company.
Well, now
Now,
that's
he's
a
got
different
some other-
argument. That's a different argument. And maybe, Pixar hasn't been the same since he left, really, if you think
Neither has
about it.
Disney Animation. Neither
So,
has none of the films, at least to me.
Yeah,
anyway, have
I
been the same.
Yeah, I think that could have been I think that was a pretty big hit for the Walt Disney Company, losing Lasseter. I don't know exactly the details, but it was during that whole time of the Me Too movement. So anybody and everybody was wiped out, and he was just a victim of it.
Yeah, he was ousted
So
from Pixar. So
now he had a animated film on Apple TV called Luck.
Yeah,
I didn't see it, but I think it won some awards. But
yeah, I've not seen that one either. The thing that I'm getting at with all of these kind of points and everything, though, is that you said it yourself. Disney has a higher standard, or Bob Iger said it himself, really. Disney has a higher standard. And so I'm going to hold them to that higher standard.
Sure,
I expect them to be twice as good, if not 3 times as good, as anything that Universal ever puts out when it comes to a theme park attraction or resort. And guess what? They're not anywhere near that right now.
Not right now.
It's neck and neck right now. And
yeah, but we haven't seen what Disney's response to this stuff is. I mean, we've seen Galaxy's Edge, we've seen Toy Story, we've seen Avatar. I mean, these are all great places. So what can they do to push that envelope?
A fifth
and that's
park.
what we're going to see.
So here's the thing that
there might be a 5th theme park in the cards.
The might is the problem, Pat, and I think this is why I keep getting driven crazy by all this stuff. If Universal, what was the speech from that movie, The Untouchables, that Sean Connery gave? If they bring a knife, you bring a gun. It's like that's what he should have been doing this whole time. If you thought that Universal was going to sit on the sidelines and not make anything, then you're an idiot, and you have no business running that.
Also, Universal announced Epic Universe is going to open next year in 2025. They announced it in 2019. So Disney
built that park.
Start announcing some stuff.
Well, I also think that Walt Disney Company had some financial issues, so that they couldn't. I don't think they could have
the financial issues who were caused by.
No, I agree, but that's the ebb and flow of the business. At some point, Universal will be in the same spot. Or
Agreed.
Comcast,
not disagreeing with it.
And Disney will be building while Universal is cutting,
But Disney won't be building truly until they have a new leader in place. And that's my problem. The biggest upswings of the company were Walt, Eisner, and then when Eisner declined again immediately afterwards with Iger. But it's on the downhill side again.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Disney CEOs. We've never rehired one after they've gone through a decline.
And on top of that, we've never gone back into a well that we left like that before. We should not have to go. That to me was a backwards hire. They should not have fired Chapek until they had a successor lined up. That wasn't Bob Iger.
Well, I think maybe they thought it was so bad they just needed to get rid of him and just steer the ship until they found somebody.
It was definitely that bad. I'm not saying that.
I mean, that's my thought process on it.
I guess I'm not. Of course, a lot of what I'm saying is a little bit of hindsight, being 2020.
Sure,
absolutely. So I'll acknowledge all of that on the front end, but also, I've quit my job plenty of times. I've quit a job before, but I don't quit my job until I know that I have another one lined up. Right? There's a reason for it. I experienced it when we first moved down here. That lineup kind of fell through because of legal reasons, and I had to sit on the sidelines for a couple months until I found something else to fill in the gap until I could get back to that other position that finally could open up because of legal loopholes and shit. So I guess what I'm getting at with all of that is don't fire someone either unless you have a replacement in mind, because then you are creating a bigger hole that you have to fill. You're forcing everyone else to have to work overtime at that point because Chapek, regardless of what you think of him, he was wearing a lot of hats because he was bald, and I mean, I would assume it gets cold, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think
Oh,
they knew
God.
what they had in Iger. They knew what they had. They knew he could steer the ship until they found the suitable replacement. And
Knowing
they
what you
thought we have to
have,
get rid of Chapek. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of accounting issues that came out. I can remember us talking about that as well. I can't remember the exact details, but I mean, he had to go. So
I agree that he had to go.
So
I
in
also
in the interim, maybe Iger can steer the ship, and it looks like we're headed in the right direction. At least I do. Right, we're slowly getting into a spot like this whole Magic Kingdom Beyond Big Thunder Mountain. The permits are going to be filed here shortly. It's supposed to be the biggest expansion in Magic Kingdom's history. So
invest all of that into
that's
a
awesome.
fifth gate.
Yeah.
Invest
Maybe,
all of that.
but so that whole thing with the Florida, the what you guys talked about last week.
Sif Todd, yes.
So, so I mean, Iger said essentially, I mean that there could possibly be another park coming. I mean, essentially that's what he said, but possibly,
Okay.
but there's all this other these other parks need to be fixed before we get a fifth theme park.
But Pat, I get what you're saying.
Magic Kingdom needs more capacity. We know Magic Kingdom needs more capacity.
Agreed. Then stop closing down the most popular fucking ride at that point and build two other ones to take its place and then go remodel it. There's better ways to approach every single one of these problems that Iger created. And frankly, that's why it's driving me crazy is that he's responsible for all of the problems that the Walt Disney Company is facing. And we are still patting the guy on the back because he's a nicer guy than Chapek was. They're the same creature. They're two sides to the exact same coin. I'm going to go with Chapek as heads, though.
I mean, they're I mean, Iger's clearly had made mistakes, but I mean, at least he's recognized his mistakes, and we're maybe, in my opinion, again, I think we're headed in a somewhat right direction now. So
okay. And I guess, yes, technically upward is the correct direction. Absolutely. Okay. But, and it's a big but, not unlike my own ass, which is a big but. Again, I cannot stress enough that the reason why it's down is still sitting in charge. And he's still not up to the same standard that he says that Disney should be at.
Yeah, but
the Disney company could not have changed because of the way that those films in particular are planned and plotted, and it takes years to get a film from script to release.
I agree.
Chapek couldn't have had his hand in it long enough to fuck with the production schedule.
I don't think that some of those movies are on Chapek for sure. I mean, definitely
all of them are on Iger. So.
Not all of them, but
yeah, pretty much. We can. All right, we want to throw Wish at Chapek? Fine, I don't care. We can throw Wish at Chapek.
I haven't seen that. But
nobody has.
Songs are terrible.
So somebody said that, or I think Steve told me, "Oh, it made $500 million." Yeah, it cost $400 million to make and market, so they made nothing off it.
No, yeah, I don't know.
Gross domestic.
I don't know. Really, what's important is who comes next. Is it? I mean,
you're right. That's the perfect.
But that means Iger has to actually retire instead of continuously pushing his retirement back.
So back to the original topic about the board members. One of the board members that Disney brought on was, I think, he's from a major bank. It wasn't Chase. It was.
It should have been Chase, the way that they sponsored.
I can't think of which bank it was, but he was involved with their succession and picking their next CEO, and that's why they brought him in, because he has a lot of experience and in that department. And you also have the guy who's the head of the board from Nike. I mean, he also has dealt with that. So
You know who also would have been really great is somebody who had worked for the Disney company, ran the
yeah,
theme
Josh tomorrow.
parks, ran the theme parks. It was actually in the C-suite as CFO. That would have been Jay Rasulo, but instead, that guy got
So
thrown under the bus big time by Iger, and Iger's the one who put him in charge of the finances of the company.
So what I would recommend to you is, but Rasulo was with Eisner, right?
He was the head of the Disney World Resort under Eisner. He was not the
Okay,
CFO.
I thought he was. And for the reason why I'm thinking
Google.
of this, the reason why I was thinking this because I was watching that documentary called the Imagineering Story. I had watched it when it first came out, and I rewatched it. And part of the decline, I think Rasulo was a part of that decline with Eisner.
I'm pretty sure that he was
towards the end of
CFO up until
Eisner's
2016.
26? No, I don't think so. Was he?
All right.
I may be wrong.
First of all, the bank that James P. Gorman works for, Morgan Stanley.
Morgan Stanley. There you go.
Also, who am I Googling now?
Rasulo.
Jay Rasulo. RASL.
My memory may be wrong,
I found him.
I was thinking he was with Eisner.
Oh, I'm sure that he was in a management position.
CFO.
I'm pretty sure
he was the senior VP and CFO up until Christy McCarthy was announced in 2015.
Oh, there you go. You're right. So
that's an Iger guy that was sitting in there for at a minimum a decade. That was supposed to be his right hand man, and now what? He's completely unqualified.
Yeah.
No. He's also on the board of directors for iHeartMedia, so he's doing.
So
yeah, I'm not worried
transparency.
about these
I voted for Rasulo. I was one of the one of that voted with my 5 shares. So I didn't think that it like I thought that he might be a good addition, but
I completely agree. Obviously. And
he resigned, by the way. He wasn't kicked out. He resigned in 2015.
Well,
a lot of those guys resigned.
If I'm not mistaken, he resigned because he was probably promised CEO and then didn't get it. And then he's like, okay, I guess I need to go.
Well, who's the other guy? Staggs.
Tom
yeah, Tom. Yeah. He should have.
Another guy that left over the exact reason for that.
Yep.
So,
Jay Rasulo was executive vice president of Disneyland Paris, and then became president of Disneyland Paris, and then chairman. He's been with the company since 1986.
Yeah.
He was president of Walt Disney Parks and Resorts starting in 2002, and in 2010 became the CFO, and was executive vice president of the company.
Yep.
Should have been CEO.
He's in line, at least.
Yeah.
If not for the guy that's in charge.
Yeah.
And this is I have a problem specifically with power. Okay. I don't like power being concentrated, and I don't like groupthink. I want to be different. Maybe that's why I am the way that I am. Particularly about being anti-IP and all of that. What? I don't like power being concentrated like that. I really don't. Whether that's political, whether that's financial, or whether it's something like this with the board, they're all under the same groupthink, and I demand diversity of thought. And the reason why I demand diversity of thought is because I think that makes you smarter. That doesn't mean that you have to change your views necessarily, but it sharpens your views, and it sharpens your counters to whatever point they're having. If you approach an argument in a debate earnestly and try to learn the other side, then not only do you have a better understanding to where you could find some common ground on something. On top of that, anything that you do genuinely find, objectionable or or what have you. You have the counter to it because you know what their argument is in and out. That's why diversity of thought is such a important thing. And there is not one board member right now that will tell Bob Iger no.
Yeah, I mean, we really don't know the conversations that go on there. So,
I guess you're right.
I
You don't have that
suppose
microphone.
I suppose by Bob Iger probably wins out for sure. But
Yeah.
it's hard for us to really know what goes on.
I mean, you have to have some sort of consensus.
Obviously, they all have, all they have a consensus of thought for sure. You would think.
I mean, but I don't think there's a debate anymore. I think it's just, yep. That's that. Yeah. Why wouldn't we do this? Why should we fire Kathleen Kennedy? She's the worst.
I got 100 reasons to fire her.
Yes.
Software did a great job of naming them.
All of them are Star Wars Episode 9, the title of which I've forgotten. That's all you need to know. And also Indiana Jones and the Dial Tone of Death.
That's terrible. I watched that.
God, it was the worst, wasn't it? It was so fucking bad. Like, yeah. I can't even, like, what did they do to Indy? Like, why? Why drag Harrison Ford's aging ass out there like that to make him do non-believable bullshit as a 90-year-old guy? Like, it's angering. Like, and on top of that, you know what? Never mind. I'm gonna.
I mean, he only agreed to do the last Star Wars movie if they killed him off. So
that's what they. I mean,
he's like, I ain't doing this again unless you kill me.
And even that, they didn't really handle well, to be honest with you. But whatever.
No, they didn't.
All right, so there's two more things that we need to really definitely address here. Bob Iger took some questions from shareholders during the annual shareholders meeting. I paid attention only to a couple of them, but the one that caught my eye and the one that's going to piss me the fuck off from here to eternity is the Disney shareholder who asked if there was going to be more Taylor Swift concerts on Disney Plus.
Do we have to talk about this?
Yes, because it was the last question of one of the most important shareholder meetings in the Disney company. And we're going to fucking talk about Taylor Swift?
Well, I guess she's... here's the thing, is that...
Look, I've got
she's
bad
a draw.
blood. Okay? I've got bad blood.
With Taylor Swift?
Yes, in general.
Oh, what happened?
It's just, again, concentrating power. That woman could, like, wave her hand and, 100 million chicks in America would do whatever the fuck she says. I think including Amanda.
I'm not...
Now, I really don't know her songs.
So then these jokes aren't going to land. Okay.
No. I don't know her songs, but I know that she's in demand and she draws money. And was they asking about, like, didn't they have a Taylor Swift concert on Disney Plus?
Yeah, her latest tour they put on Disney Plus.
So maybe their thought is, like, are you going to put more of her on there because people will sign up and watch Disney Plus since she's on there? Is that what the question pretty much was?
Essentially, yes. To immediately answer that question, I think they should shake it up.
How'd he? Oh, she sings that?
I did that just for that look on her face. Look at that.
I didn't know she sang that song.
Right back.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have three things for this particular shareholder. This could get violent, guys. Ow, son of a bitch! I got hit in the chest.
What?
Taken out by a sniper.
Did you just walk away to throw something at him?
Yes, she did. It hurt too, by the way. So I have three responses to this Taylor Swift.
Please leave that in because that was amusing.
Yeah, of course. This shareholder who talked about this. One, let's say that if this shareholder did it for their kid, you know what? Grow up and be serious. Now's not the time. Now's not the time. If you did it because you're a Swiftie, fuck you. Like,
But why wouldn't the Walt Disney Company team up with Taylor Swift if they thought she could bring more subscribers to Disney Plus? I mean,
Honestly, I'm surprised she hasn't been tapped to like write songs for some of these movies.
because I find it to be creatively bankrupt of them to just put on a video that somebody could have done on their fucking iPhone as something to watch for content.
so what I find interesting about, I heard that her concerts are so loud that they register like on an earthquake scale.
Yes, that's correct. The
That's
women
insane to
there
me.
just like
This tour, and again, I am not a Swiftie, but even I have to give her credit for this latest tour, was just so like the technology that she used in the show, and like it was really amazing. The clips I've seen, it was pretty awesome. So yeah, I can see why, 'cause she got really creative with some of the things that she did, and I think she performed for like 3 hours straight.
Oh, wow.
In her concert.
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, awesome. You know, it would have been great to see it live, not on a goddamn streaming
Yeah,
service.
but not everybody can see it live or afford
Right,
it.
because those ticket prices were expensive.
Yeah.
Plus, Ticketmaster
Yeah.
crashed. Ticketmaster literally crashed the day her tickets went on sale.
Yeah, people are
That's
paying
why
big
you
money
have
for
to-
those tickets.
That's why you have
It's
to
like
join
going to see
Ticketmaster
Lionel
Plus.
Messi play soccer. You know,
Who?
he's down in your part of town.
He's in Miami. He plays for Miami now.
But I know
He
but
is
it's
like
close to
the
where you
biggest
guys
soccer
live.
player
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah,
Okay, I thought that
it's
was
like the greatest. He's the GOAT.
I thought that was like Pele or something. But okay, sure.
Pele,
Well,
no. Well, Pele used to be the GOAT.
Now
oh,
it's
he's not
Messi.
the GOAT anymore.
It's
Oh, it's
Messi
Messi.
now.
Oh, I didn't realize that he was that bad.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
no.
So look, the Swifties though, they're worse than CrossFit people. Like they just won't shut the fuck up about Taylor Swift. And I like, to a degree, I understand like wanting to have your fandoms and stuff like that. Okay, don't have them dominate your life. Don't have CrossFit be the only thing that you can talk about. Don't be a Swiftie.
All
That's
you
what I'm
talk
saying.
about is Star Trek.
That's not true. It's really not.
How many times have you watched it in the last month?
It's not important. You know why? Because I don't bring it up on this show. I mention it in passing, and I would love to have a Star Trek podcast. I would, Steve. We can talk later. But I don't think that's gonna. I don't think he's gonna want to.
What about
produce
your
that.
obsession with Disney?
Okay, yeah, I don't go fucking talking about it to every single person that I meet on the street. Someone
You
comes
probably
to
talk
me
about it a
and
lot,
talks about
though.
it comes up on in conversation on occasion, but I'm not the one usually who brings it up. Seriously,
Okay.
if somebody else brings, a lot of the time when I'm talking about Disney, it ends up being with folks that are living at Golden Oak, where my company does some work.
I
Yeah,
always
I don't-
find myself in a Disney conversation for some reason.
Yeah, me too. But
You know
again,
what?
I'm not the one.
I'm
who's
gonna
bringing it up.
defend Bobby here. You're right. You're right. You don't always talk about Star Trek and Disney. Next week, all you're gonna talk about is the Masters.
Right, and then I will move on for another 51 weeks until the Masters comes back, because that's how I am. Like
Is that golf?
I have a lot of plate spinning, so to speak, in terms of my fandom, and I don't just get hyper focused on just the one. I have a lot that I enjoy. I'm a huge Braves fan, huge Braves fan. I'm a huge college football fan, a huge NFL fan. I've got a lot more stuff to enjoy than just the one singular thing, and that's what Swifties do, and that's what CrossFit people do, and I'm tired of it.
To be fair, I know some Swifties. You know some Swifties. You just don't know you know some Swifties.
They're the day walkers.
Because they also don't
I thought that's Game of
have
Thrones.
just that.
Vampires.
Yeah, you're friends with some Swifties and you don't know it.
Okay. Well, either way, the other option, by the way, I suppose there's two more options that could have happened. One, Taylor Swift could have been the one who was asking the question, I suppose.
That'd have been cool.
They didn't say who the name was. And then the I guess the final option is that it was a plant question. And you know what? If it's a plant, be a succulent plant. Don't be a fiddly fig, which is notoriously very difficult to grow.
Do you write these things down
I do.
and then say it?
This is the third time I've heard this particular joke.
Got it all right here.
Okay?
I got jokes.
That's a joke?
Yes, it is.
It is. And it's
Okay.
the third time I've heard it in 2 days.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, God forbid I workshop some of this shit. But whatever, it's fine.
You workshop that?
He
Yes, I
texted it to me and then said it out loud to me.
Did you get a response? What was the response?
Okay,
I
so
chuckled.
no, she didn't respond to the text message. That's hence why I didn't think she saw it because she was at the grocery store. So yeah, I said it out loud instead.
I was driving when I got the text message on my way
Okay.
home.
But point exactly. I don't know that she saw that shit. Whatever, it's fine. We moved.
Okay.
We moved on. Okay, so there's that. That solves the Swifty thing. Also, Bob Iger just again in that performance hinted at a whole lot of shit. Didn't actually announce anything because that's all they do is hint at shit and don't actually announce
Well,
anything.
they hinted at a bunch of shit, and then today they announced a bunch of shit, essentially. It's weird.
Probably should have
Yeah.
done it during the presentation. Just saying.
You would think
Bob.
they would have,
You know,
instead of putting it on a YouTube
that
video
should have been his
or
video.
Instagram.
I think that's my problem is that I just have a problem with the way that this guy literally does everything right now. There's really nothing in that he is, even something as simple as making an announcement about theme parks and stuff like that. Like, why are you doing it the day after? You got the news, you got the microphone, you got all the eyes watching. That's the time to announce it. Instead, he wants to drag out the news cycle a little bit more. They want to drag it out even
D23, baby.
further into D23, which that's the final thing that we need to talk about tonight before we call it quits. I think that there are some long-lasting ramifications to how this vote turned out. But I want to hear what you guys think those ramifications are first. So, Pat, what do you think this finally says about Disney or the Disney company? What do you think this says about Disney World in the future prospects for it?
I think that now that this is out of the way, I think that the Florida stuff is out of the way, that they can start moving forward and they can start putting money into Walt Disney World going forward.
Okay.
That's what I think. I think investments will happen now that these distractions are over. So that's where I'm at right now. And I think D23 will start getting actually concrete like stuff that we'll be seeing.
Okay. Amanda, how about you?
I am hopeful that having these distractions out of the way means that, yes, we can now actually do some things. However, with Iger, I'll believe it when I see it. So once I start to see these things happening, then yes. But until I actually see some stuff going on, I'm not going to get my hopes up.
I'm with you 100% on that. Hell, I still don't necessarily believe that the Poly Tower is being built, and I can actually see that shit. So that's how little faith I have in the Disney company and what they announce and all of that. This is a put up or shut up moment as far as I'm concerned. I think that I think this is a major setback for both the parks and for the Disney company as a whole. I think that Peltz would have been a voice, not of reason necessarily, but opposition. He would have made you think about something else, which from that you could glean plenty of other things, but he would have made you at least think. And that's something that no one on that board is currently capable of doing, as far as I'm concerned. They're certainly not doing so in a manner that's public, that we can see. And if my general consensus on it is that if there was consistent opposition from one person, that person would be immediately let go because he or she is just not a team player. Because we have to have this particular board be unanimous about everything. Everybody has to agree about everything. The way that this company is run. I also think that every time, and I hate bringing this up now because I feel like I won't shut up about it, but the flywheel, yep. Every time that announce yet one more thing with another intellectual property about it and won't shut up about content, like the word content to me is almost like a forbidden word as far as I'm concerned. Because of the way that they have used that word and the way that they have changed so many things that made Disney great a long time ago, I kind of feel like, well, all these changes are because of content, the word content. That's just me, but I'm tired of this particular group of leadership's antics when it comes to the company. I don't have an actual share in the Disney company, but I am a stakeholder. So, and this goes back to business ethics, if we can recall Happy Gilmore, and talk about that for a second. There are two conflicting schools of thought when it comes to business ethics. One of them is stockholder theory. One of them is stakeholder theory. Stockholder theory means that you only give a shit about the stockholders because they are the ones who are invested financially within a company. Okay, that totally makes sense as a thought process. It's a short-sighted one because it fails to consider things like the customers and that is Disney too big to fail at this point? I don't think that they're too big to fail.
I don't know. I don't know if they're too big to fail, but did you see the parks lately? I mean, today you couldn't even hop out of the parks. They're so full.
Yeah, Magic Kingdom had to stop park hopping today.
I mean, it's just.
Yes, I agree with that.
It's just.
But I also I've said it before on this. I'm not aligned with the masses. I think they're all a bunch of massholes. I do because.
What are you? What'd you just say?
They're a bunch of massholes.
So you went from passholes to massholes.
To massholes. That's right. I'm not even talking about the people from Boston. I'm just talking about
Hi, hey guys. Yeah. We have been recording for over an hour, and we are recording this. It is like almost 11:30 p.m. our time. I have to get up and go to work tomorrow and deal with 8th graders. I also have a dog here who is going berserk because we are not.
Oh, I can hear it.
Okay. Well, all right, fine. Why don't you take care of Cooper? Amanda, before you leave, how about this? Can you tell us where you can find us on social media? Because I believe that we are we not?
We are on social media. You can find us on Facebook and that site formerly known as Twitter at Cynical Disney. And you can figure out who runs those two sites. And and you can find us everywhere else. So that's Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Threads, all of that at Cynics on Disney.
Thank you very much, sweetie. Now go take care of that adorable little puppy of ours. He's a cutie.
Oh, boy.
Oh, there she goes. She went by. Anyway, to finish this off, I guess, I promise you, because I'm done. I'm done the ranting and at least for this episode. Yes, I'm pushing back. Yes, I know I'm not the mainstream. Yes, I recognize that I'm different than everybody else. I think that's what makes me interesting to listen to personally. That's my cross to bear. But because I have such a different way of looking at things, it drives me crazy when I only see the one thought process be put into place. And that one thought process right now is how can I take a piece of content and milk it for every single drop? And I don't want them to do that. I want them to either create new content or create something that's, at least in the park setting, that's completely unrelated, because there's plenty of great ideas that don't involve a movie or a TV show or a cartoon or whatever. Pick your IP poison at that point. And to me, it's all poison. I'm just, because we don't have the one anymore. We don't have the space for anything else. I'm tired of the group thing.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm more of a realist. I know this is the direction of the company right now, and I do know at some point that could change. But right now, this is what we're getting, and as long as they can make something great and that I can enjoy, and the technology is great, and that's what's important to me.
Patrick, your realism is the reason why we dragged you on this show. So I appreciate you providing me with a counter argument and something
Yeah.
to debate against this evening.
Mhm.
Unlike some people who don't like to talk about some difficult subjects, not naming names. It's all Amanda. I'm kidding. It's not. No, but seriously, thank you so much for joining us. As CFO of NotClub33.com, is there any particular thing that you would like to push or pedal?
Always pedal the Notcast, and that's every Friday, almost every Friday. I will be having some 3-minute dining reviews I've recorded. They'll come
That's what I
out
was hoping for.
randomly. They're going to be coming out randomly when we don't have a Notcast. So it's just
Okay.
going to be fillers for when we don't have a Notcast. Now that we have this show on every Monday, you want to tune into this show, of course, every Monday. Go back to listen to the old shows. So yeah, that's what I'm pushing.
Well, excellent. Pat, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And thank all of you for listening and or watching us here on YouTube. If you could do us another favor, though, if you could subscribe, rate, and review on whatever platform you are enjoying this here show on, YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, whatever the hell you're listening to us on. We appreciate it. But we do need you to do that whole like and share and subscribe thing because it gets us going in the algorithm and exposing us to more listeners. And trust me, especially now that we are on video, you don't want me exposing myself in any other way. But until next time, thank you so much again for putting up with all this nonsense and have yourselves a magical fucking day.